Have you ever wondered why the men who do the least often leave the deepest impression on women? Why some men, without chasing, convincing, or performing, are the ones women remember, desire, and even obsess over? It's not because they're richer, or smoother, or even better looking. It's because they've tapped into something deeper, a quiet power, a calm energy, a magnetic presence that doesn't beg to be seen because it naturally commands attention. In a world where most men rush to impress, overshare, and try too hard, there exists a different kind of man. He doesn't move fast, he doesn't reveal everything, he doesn't play games, but he understands the rules of desire. He's unreadable, yet unforgettable. He's patient, yet powerful. He understands that delayed affection becomes 10 times more intoxicating, and when used with intention, silence becomes a force of dominance. This video is about that man, the one who creates emotional impact without force, who sets silent boundaries without explanation, who moves with such control that women feel drawn in, challenged, and awakened. This isn't a trick, it's not manipulation, it's masculine mastery. If you've ever been the man who chased, who over-explained, who gave too much too soon, only to be ignored, confused, or forgotten, then it's time to evolve, because once you understand how unreadiness fuels attraction, once you realize the power of silence over speech, you stop being the man who hopes to be chosen and become the man who chooses. Let's begin. Hyper-selective focus, choosing women, not needing them. This is where masculine power begins, not with need, but with choice. Most men chase relationships from a place of lack. They seek affection to fill a gap. They chase, they plead, they hope. But women feel that energy instantly, and it repels. The magnetic man, he operates from fullness. He doesn't crave approval. He's not desperate for love. He's deliberate, carefully, choosing who gets access to his time, energy, and presence. That means he doesn't say yes to every invite. He doesn't pursue every woman who shows interest. He doesn't get distracted by noise. Instead, he knows his values, his standards, what he truly wants in a partner. And that kind of focus is rare because most men dilute their energy, hoping something will stick. But when a man becomes selective, something shifts. He becomes the prize, not because he's better than others, but because he values himself enough to wait for what truly aligns. Women are drawn to men who don't need them, because need creates pressure. But when a man chooses calmly, confidently, from a place of self-respect, desire grows naturally. He becomes the steady presence women instinctively trust. And hyper-selective focus means knowing when to walk away. Not out of anger, but out of alignment. When her actions don't match his values, he simply steps back. No drama, no explanation, no need. That sends a clear, silent message. I'm not desperate, I'm discerning. I don't need you to complete me. I choose to share with you. And that kind of energy, it's magnetic, it's rare. It flips the dynamic completely. When you become the man who chooses rather than chases, you reclaim emotional control. You stop reacting and start leading. And that leadership attracts attention, respect, and authentic connection. So today, sharpen your focus. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not surface-level wants, but core desires. Raise your standards quietly and hold them without apology, because the man who chooses with calm clarity becomes irresistible. He moves with purpose. He speaks without needing to speak, and women feel that energy. It signals strength, safety, and something real. Number 2, the frame advantage. Defining the moment. Before she does, every interaction between a man and a woman is a subtle dance of influence, energy, and unspoken power. But the men who lead with confidence, who captivate without chasing, they all understand one critical concept: the frame. The frame is the invisible boundary of the moment. It's the emotional and psychological lens through which both people experience what's happening, and whoever holds it leads. When you hold the frame, you define the mood, you set the pace, you decide the meaning of the moment before she even has the chance to shape it. That's the frame advantage, and it's a cornerstone of masculine presence. Most men, without realizing it, hand over this power. They wait for her to set the tone. If she's nervous, they mirror it. If she's distant, they shrink. If she teases or tests, they scramble to keep up. But in doing so, they become reactive, and nothing kills attraction faster than passivity. The man who holds the frame understands something powerful. Whoever defines the moment controls the experience. This isn't about being dominant. It's about being grounded. Before you even walk into a conversation, a date, or a room, decide how you want that moment to feel. Playful, focused, deep, relaxed, then carry that energy with you. Your tone, your body language, your eye contact, they all signal your frame. Speak with certainty. Pause with intention. Hold eye contact not as a question, but as a quiet challenge. Don't fill every silence, own it. And when she tries to shift the tone, maybe with a test, a joke, or a change in mood, you don't resist or overreact. You hold the frame. Calmly, firmly, you invite her into your emotional world rather than being pulled into hers. This quiet leadership builds trust, because in your presence, she feels safe to relax, not because you control her, but because you control yourself. Men who lose the frame often feel confused or frustrated. They chase her approval, over-explain, or try to win her back. But the man who holds the frame never tries to force connection. He simply defines the space where connection can naturally unfold. The frame isn't about ego, it's about emotional clarity. It's not about manipulation, it's about direction. So, ask yourself in each moment, am I leading it or following it? Step into every interaction with intention. Because when you hold the frame, you hold the moment. And that quiet leadership is what draws her in, not because you asked for her attention, but because you never needed it. Number 3, self-containment rituals, daily Stoic habits that make you unbreakable. Real strength doesn't shout, it doesn't flex, it doesn't try to prove itself. Real strength is quiet, calm, unshakable. This is the power of self-containment, the daily practice of mastering your inner world. No matter what chaos surrounds you, self-containment means your emotions are yours to own. Your validation doesn't come from the outside, and your peace isn't conditional on who texts you back, who approves of you, or what happens today. You become solid by choice and by ritual. So how do you build this kind of internal strength? It starts each morning, before the world demands anything from you. Take just a few minutes to reflect. Journal your intention. Read a quote from Marcus Aurelius or Seneca, or simply sit in stillness and observe your thoughts without judgment. This moment grounds you. It reminds you that you are not your emotions. You are the observer of them. Throughout your day, practice emotional awareness. When anger, stress, or anxiety show up, don't suppress them and don't let them control you. Acknowledge them with calm clarity. Ask, what am I feeling? What can I actually control right now? This habit rewires your mind from reaction to response, from chaos to calm. Next, establish small but unshakable boundaries. These are promises you make to yourself and keep. Maybe it's your workout. Maybe it's refusing to engage in gossip. Maybe it's ending your scrolling at a set time. Whatever it is, treat it as sacred. Because every time you honor a boundary, you reinforce your self-worth. And don't underestimate the power of silence and solitude. In a world addicted to distraction, solitude becomes a superpower. Use that space to recharge, to reflect, to reconnect with what matters most. Then close your day the way you started it, with intention. What did you learn today? What did you control? What progress did you make? This simple act of daily review builds momentum and gratitude. And here's the truth. When you become self-contained, your energy shifts. You walk into the room differently. You speak less, but say more. You no longer seek approval because you already know who you are. Women, friends, the world, people are drawn to that calm confidence because it offers something rare: emotional safety. Self-containment doesn't mean being cold or emotionless. It means becoming the master of your own emotional state, so that no situation, no mood, no test can shake your foundation. This is what it means to be unbreakable. So start today. Choose stillness over reaction. Choose purpose over impulse. Choose discipline over drama. Because the man who is self-contained doesn't just survive life's storms, he becomes the eye of them. Number 4, no emotional asking. Cutting all indirect bids for validation. One of the most overlooked secrets of real masculine power is this: stop asking for emotional validation. That doesn't just mean avoiding obvious questions like, "Do you still like me?" It means cutting out every subtle, indirect bid for reassurance, attention, or sympathy. It shows up in ways many men don't even notice. It's sending that extra text just to see if she replies. It's doing something just to be praised for it. It's fishing for compliments. It's hinting that you feel neglected, hoping she'll fix it. These small behaviors seem harmless, but they erode your presence because each one says the same silent thing: "I need you to validate me." And every time you emotionally ask, even indirectly, you hand over your power. You say, "My confidence depends on your response." And when that response isn't what you hoped for, the result is always the same: frustration, confusion, or anxiety. But here's the shift. When you cut emotional asking completely, you reclaim something priceless: your emotional sovereignty. You stop seeking approval and start standing in your value. You become a man who gives, not a man who asks. This change isn't about becoming distant or emotionless. It's about anchoring your self-worth so deeply inside yourself that you don't need constant signals from others to feel whole. And when you do that, something incredible happens. People, especially women, feel it. They sense your calm, your groundedness, your quiet confidence. So how do you stop emotional asking? Start by noticing it. Become aware of when you're subtly seeking a reaction. Ask yourself, am I expressing myself honestly or hoping for reassurance? Then pause, breathe. Instead of reaching outward, turn inward. Affirm your worth privately. Remind yourself that you are whole, with or without approval, and speak with emotional clarity, not emotional hunger. That means when you share something personal, you do it without the need for her to respond a certain way. You state rather than ask. You express without expecting validation. And most importantly, shift into a mindset of abundance. Understand this: your peace, your confidence, your joy don't depend on one person. You have options, you have purpose, you have presence. A man who doesn't emotionally ask is a man who chooses. He moves with quiet certainty. He doesn't chase connection. He attracts it, not by force, but by being so full inside that others naturally want to join his world. Master this, and emotional freedom becomes your default. Number 5, the power of unreadiness. Delaying affection to create sexual polarity. There's a hidden force in attraction, one most men overlook completely: unreadiness. Unreadiness is the subtle art of delaying affection, not to play games, not to manipulate, but to allow real tension, intrigue, and sexual polarity to grow. Because here's the truth: feminine desire rarely ignites when you give her everything too fast. Rushing into affection, texting too soon, confessing feelings, early escalating physical touch before the moment builds. All of it can feel overwhelming instead of attractive. And yet, most men do exactly that. They think giving more will get more. But in reality, desire isn't created by proximity. It's created by space. Unreadiness is that space. It says, I'm here, I'm present, but I move when I'm ready, not when you expect me to. That calm restraint is magnetic. It creates an open loop in her mind, something unresolved, something she starts thinking about again and again. Why hasn't he kissed me yet? Why is he not in a rush? Why does he seem so composed? These questions spark investment, not confusion, but curiosity, not detachment, but desire. And the longer the build-up, the more powerful the release. Unreadiness is often misunderstood as coldness, but it's not cold. It's deliberate. It's about moving slowly, not to withhold, but to allow tension to mature. It's brushing her hand casually, and then pulling back. It's holding eye contact just a moment too long, then looking away. It's ending a date with presence and confidence, but without over-explaining. These aren't tricks. They're signals. They show that you're not chasing, and you're not proving anything. You're in control of yourself, and that control creates safety, mystery, and longing. In fact, the most unforgettable men are the ones who don't rush. They delay affection until it's undeniable. They hold back, not out of fear, but out of power, because they know something most never learn. If you give her everything right away, she has nothing to wonder about. But if you move with timing, with restraint, with presence, she'll replay the interaction over and over in her mind, and that's how desire is built. Unreadiness doesn't mean you never act. It means you act only when the moment is right, and you're the one who decides when that is. So on your next date, don't rush to impress. Let silence hang. Let moments breathe. Let her lean into your energy before you lean into hers, because in a world full of men who chase, the man who waits wins. Number 6, silent boundaries. Why strong men don't explain themselves. A man's true power isn't just in what he says. Often, it's in what he doesn't say. It's in the invisible lines he draws, the quiet standards he holds, without ever needing to justify, defend, or explain them. These are silent boundaries, and they are one of the clearest signals of masculine presence and authority. Most men believe boundaries must be discussed, reasoned out, or debated. They feel compelled to explain why certain behavior doesn't sit right, or why they expect more. But here's the truth. The strongest men don't explain. They simply act. A silent boundary isn't a rule spoken aloud. It's a shift in energy. It's a calm withdrawal. It's the decision to disengage, not with anger, but with clarity. When a man begins explaining himself, he opens the door to negotiation. And once your boundaries are negotiable, they are no longer boundaries. They become requests. But the man who moves away, without drama, without warning, without emotional noise, commands instant attention. Women feel this deeply. They start asking themselves, did I cross a line? Why did he pull back without a word? What does he value so much that he simply won't tolerate this? That questioning isn't fear, it's respect taking root, because a man who walks away without explaining has nothing to prove and nothing to lose. Silent boundaries show up in subtle but powerful ways. If she's inconsistent with her communication, you don't bring it up repeatedly. You don't chase. You simply slow your response. Pull back. Move forward. If she disrespects your time or tests your patience, you don't plead or perform. You remove your energy cleanly, quietly. If her actions no longer align with your peace, you don't try to fix it. You exit with dignity. No drama, no lectures, just action. Because here's what most men don't realize. Explaining a boundary weakens it. Every "I just want to be honest" or "I don't appreciate when" sounds reasonable, but often it's a veiled request for permission. It says, I need you to agree with me so I can feel okay. And that need repels more than it attracts. Strong men don't explain, they don't argue, they don't beg to be understood. They remove themselves, and by doing so, they set the highest standard of all, a life where only respect is allowed in. This energy doesn't repel women, it attracts the right ones, those who are emotionally secure enough to recognize power without pressure. Because the man who doesn't force understanding doesn't chase compatibility, he reveals it. And when your boundaries are silent, steady, and uncompromising, you don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Your presence does that for you. Conclusion. Quiet power is the loudest signal. Silent boundaries are not about being cold. They're about being clear. They show that you don't need to raise your voice or explain yourself to be respected. You simply hold your peace. And if it's threatened, you protect it without words, without drama, without negotiation. That calm confidence doesn't just earn attention, it filters out the noise. It attracts women who recognize a man of depth, discipline, and integrity. It quietly dismisses anyone who doesn't align with your values. This is the true essence of masculine energy, not control over others, but full control over self. So from this moment on, stop over-explaining, stop negotiating your worth, stop asking for permission to have standards. Hold your ground, speak through action, and let your silence carry more weight than anyone else's noise ever could. Because the man who doesn't need to explain is the man who is remembered, respected, desired, and unshakable.